night on the CINA 102.3 app at cinafm.com, on TuneIn, on smart speaker, and at 102.3 FM. Cina Radio, every device, everywhere. The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the management, staff, or advertisers of Cina Radio.
Joumana Kayrouz. You've seen her images on giant billboards across the metro. Joumana Kayrouz. You've seen her images on buses across the city. Now get to know Joumana Kayrouz.
The war broke out in my home country, Lebanon. I was 11 years old, and I saw a lot of bloodshed and inequality and poverty. You can't grow up in an environment like that and not be affected by it and not want to make a difference. I graduated from Yale University with a master's in ethics. I speak 4 languages. It has always been innate in me fighting for the underdog and trying to do whatever it is I can to make a difference in the world.
Let Joumana Kayrouz protect your rights. Call the law offices of Joumana Kayrouz at 1-866-YOUR-RIGHTS, extension 100, or visit yourrights.com.
برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز المختصة في قضايا حوادث السيارات، مع نخبة من المحامين في اختصاصات عدة منها الطلاق والهجرة والإفلاس، يأتيكم الآن على الهواء مباشرة. تحية طيبة لكم مستمعينا، أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز، ودائما على الهواء مباشرة. حلقات البرنامج تأتيكم بالإضافة إلى أنها مسجلة ويعاد بثها مرة أخرى على الموقع الإلكتروني yourrights.com أو على اليوتيوب. كل ما عليكم هو البحث عن قناة جومانا كيروز. الاستشارة مجانية في مكتب المحامية جومانا كيروز 248-557-3645. ومكتب المحامي جومانا كيروز يستقبل قضايا عديدة منها personal injury, car accidents, قضايا الهجرة والتجنس، قضايا الإفلاس, criminal law, family law, قضايا إصابات العمل والسوشيال سكيورتي. ودائما برنامج يور رايتس يأتيكم على سينا فيديو كل يوم الآن وحتى الأربعاء راح تكون حلقة إن شاء الله جديدة من برنامج يور رايتس. أهلا وسهلا بك جومانا.
صباح الخير رامي، صباح الخير لكل
نور.
المستمعين، عيد مبارك للجميع يا رب.
إن شاء الله.
نعم، إذا بتحب تبلغ المستمعين أنه ابتداء من 19 أو 17 جون رح نصير نبث يوميا
تقريبا بالفعل 5 أيام بالأسبوع،
5 أيام
ما عدا
بالأسبوع.
حلقة الاثنين تعاد أيضا يوم الأحد، يعني 6 أيام
يعني
تقريباً.
6 أيام بالأسبوع. كتر خير الله.
الله يعينك. وأكيد هو التزام، وأعرف وقتك ضيق، لكن بالرغم من جدولك المزدحم دائما تلقين وقت للمستمعين حتى تفيد المستمعين.
It's getting very busy. كتير 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 الجدول صار ضيق 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 ضيق، بس كتر خير الله.
الحمد
كتر
لله.
خير الله.
الحمد لله.
كمان مرة عيد مبارك. ما بعرف قديش من المستمعين عم يستمعوا اليوم حفلتهم، اليوم عيدهم، اليوم نهار شكر إلهم، اليوم راحة، اليوم أكل، اليوم كل هالأشياء الجميلة. ما بعرف قديه من المستمعين عم يتسمعوا، بس نحن لمدة الساعة مستضيفين محامي من المحامين اللي بيشتغلوا عندي بالمكتب، ولي ما تبقى من الساعة عم نحكي عن قانون حوادث السيارات، عم نحكي عن تأثير القانون اللي بده يصير قانون ابتداء من جولاي 2020. بدنا نقارن شوي حسب معرفتنا وحسب معلوماتنا لحد هلا اللي هي غير كامله نحن واي محاميين اخرين، عن الفرق بين القانون اللي بعده لهلا بيطبق على حوادث السيارات والقانون اللي ابتداء من جولاي 2019 ببلش يتغير. ومعي هون بالمكتب بالاستوديو المحامي جون شرودر اللي هو مدير البري ليتيكيشن ديبارتمنت عندي بالمكتب. جون, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You
Thanks
may-
for having me.
A pleasure. You may want to wish our listeners Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know it is a rather quiet day in the office. We don't have a lot of clients today. We have quite a few, but not as many as usual, because this is a day of celebration. This is a day of Thanksgiving. This is a day of getting together with friends and family, taking a day off. A number of our employees have the day off today, other than those who have obligations, some of the attorneys with courts and so forth. So congratulations and happy Eid to everybody again and again and again. And may we all live to say that to each other again 1 year from today. Thank you, John, for being here. John, we're going to take calls for the rest of the hour. If any is listening, if the numbers to call here, because we know that today a lot of people are busy celebrating, understandably so. The number to call is 313-769-6666, and from Windsor 519-256-1023. And before we start, I want to tell the listeners in English, and then Rami and I will discuss it in Arabic again, that effective June 17, God willing, so that's right around the corner, that begins not next week, but the week after, we will be on the radio every day, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And the format will change slightly. We have always had Mondays reserved for immigration. We always try to have Fridays reserved for wrapping up what was discussed and the important points that were discussed throughout the week. But because I find that there is not enough time to discuss important specialties like Social Security Disability, SSI, SSD, workman's compensation, not even enough time to discuss family law and criminal law. So the format has changed a little bit. And effective June 17, like I said, we will be on the radio every single day during the work week, and then we will be repeating the Monday immigration show, generally speaking, on Sunday. So effective June 17, every Monday, we keep our immigration show. Every Tuesday will now be bankruptcy. Every Wednesday will be car accidents. Every Thursday will be Social Security and workman's compensation. And every Friday will be family law and criminal law. So our attorneys have their schedules arranged in such a way that they will try as best they can to abide by the schedule. And occasionally we're going to have to switch days. However, I know, God willing, I will be here every Wednesday talking about car accidents. I know Sam, most of the time, not all the time, is able to make it on Monday, and then the schedule is distributed accordingly. رامي ابتداء من 17 الشهر صرنا رح نعمل كل يوم اختصاص جديد، فرح نغير شوي السيناريو. كنا قبل قد ما ممكن نهار الجمعة نلخص الأسبوع كله، ما رح نقدر نعمل هيك، ما رح نعمل هيك anymore، لأنه في كتير اختصاصات ما عم نعطيها حقها. ابتداء من 17 حزيران كل نهار تنين موضوع ثابت immigration، كل نهار ثلاثة رح يكون عن الإفلاس، كل نهار أربعاء رح يكون عن حوادث السيارات، كل نهار خميس رح يكون عن السوشيال سيكوريتي SSI SSD والوركمنز كومبنسيشن، وكل نهار جمعة رح يكون عن فاميلي لو كريمينال لو اور بوث. سو هيدا ابتداء من 17 شهر. وكل نهار أحد بنردد 99% من الوقت بنردد حلقة نهار الثاني اللي هي الإميجريشن، لأنه بنعرف بتفيد كتير من المستمعين. عنا أول اتصال اليوم، عم نحكي عن حوادث السيارات مع ضيفنا المحامي جون شرودر. John, we already have a caller, so we will take our first caller. Hello.
هلو مرحبا.
يا أهلا وسهلا.
كيفك محامية؟
ماشي الحال، كل عيد وأنت بخير.
وأنت بخير يا رب. في عندي سؤال لك.
تفضل.
الجمعة الماضية، الأسبوع الماضي، كانت أنا من كندا، أنا كندي، اسمي مصطفى.
أوكي.
وفي عندي بنتي كانت بديربون، في عندها شوية شغل. بالصدفة واقفة على الترافيك لايت. في بيجي واحد بيضرب فيها بالسيارة، رننتور فيري سترونج هيت.
ضربة من ورا؟
نعم.
من ورا؟ أوكي. رير اندد؟ أوكي.
رير اندد، يس.
نعم.
طيب وبهالحالة هذه شو فينا نعمل؟ إذا أنا لأني كنديان.
Okay. So
I called the police station. They said you gotta wait a week to post that incident report online.
Okay, and was told a week. Okay, very good. And that all happened in Dearborn.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me translate very quickly. Mr. Mustafa is a Canadian resident. His daughter, who is also a Canadian resident, was visiting Dearborn last week. She was at a traffic light. She got rear-ended. The police was the police called, or did your daughter go to the police?
Well, the police, and what happened is that when they called the police, the guy was almost attacking her, and the police dispatch told her to stay in the car, stay put till the police got there, and the police was there within 5 minutes.
Okay, so the police came to the scene of the accident. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So the police came to the scene of the accident, and Dad was told it will take about a week for him to obtain the police report. What can Attorney John Schroeder, Canadian dad, do for his Canadian daughter in a Michigan car accident? That's the question.
Sure. So I presume...
How old is your daughter?
She's 21.
Okay. Does she have her own car?
Yes.
Okay. And she is insured in Canada?
Of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to ask. So it was whether or not she was insured. So if she was insured, properly insured while driving, you would be eligible for a couple different potential claims here. Can
I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
In order for us to advise him about Michigan law versus Canadian law,
right.
I want to ask a couple of questions. Does your daughter work?
Yes, she does.
Okay. And
she's also a university student. She's studying law.
Okay, congratulations.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Congratulations. So she works and she is a university student. And please tell me, how is she doing? Is she okay?
Her neck sore very bad.
Okay, but is she needing help dressing and undressing? As far as you know, I know it's only been 1 week.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, sometimes she needed help for a little bit from her mom. She'll help her a little bit, but most of the time she's doing it on her own.
Okay, very good. And I know it's still early. Okay, Attorney John Schroeder, go ahead.
Sure. So there are a couple potential claims that you have available to your daughter here, and because the accident was in Michigan, she can elect either Canadian personal injury protection benefits or Michigan personal injury protection benefits.
And let me interrupt and say, Mr. Mustafa, after we're done analyzing this, we want to tell you that when people can elect Michigan benefits, as of today, pays more and pays better than Canadian benefits. That's why people who can want to elect Michigan benefits. Continue, John.
Honestly, just to interrupt for 1 second, honestly, I have in mind to call to you guys as, better than Canadian law, American law better than Canadian law, to see what situation happened in the state. So I would like to have a U.S. attorney in there.
Well, there is enough of a connection with Michigan. For example, her case for pain and suffering, you need a Michigan lawyer for that, even if you wanted a Canadian lawyer. And her benefits for treatment, for wages, household services, and potential attending care, this is where you may have an option. And if you have an option and you can exercise the option timely, most people want Michigan because it is a better program than Canadian. I keep interrupting, John. My apologies.
It's not a problem. We're covering all the bases. It's not a problem. So as I was stating, there are really a couple different options for you, and they will, I'm sure, also provide you with some general comparisons, as I believe Canadian law is required to do. But so you really have two different types of claims, though. You have your personal injury protection benefits, and then you also have a bodily injury claim for your daughter. And those are two...
To put it simply, the bodily injury is the pain and suffering against the person who hit her, and the first one is for her treatment, her wages, and so forth.
Yep. Which is exactly where I was going next. So she has potentially eligible... Now, did she miss any time at work after the accident so far?
She did miss a day.
Okay. Just the one day? Has she gone back to work?
She's gone back to work. She doesn't like to stay home.
Okay. So
good for her, but it's too early.
Right. So one of the things, you can't always tell exactly how injuries are going to affect you.
Exactly. It's too early.
Over time. But one of the benefits that she is potentially eligible for under the personal injury protection side of it is wage loss. So to the extent that she ends up having to miss work, she
just let me interrupt you.
Please.
She have a traumatized from developed after the accident, and it's going very difficult time for her.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had clients before who work for several weeks or even a month and then have to take time off later because they try to work through their injuries and they're not able to do so. So if that happens to her, she's going to be eligible for 85% of her lost wages under the Michigan No Fault Act. Now, lost wages means the difference between what she would have earned had she been working and what she's actually earning. So there are a couple different ways this could come about, right? So first of all, a person could reduce their total number of hours they're employed because of injuries sustained in the accident. And if it's because of those injuries sustained in the accident, then they can get essentially what we call differential wage loss, the difference between what she would have earned and what she is earning.
So, Mr. Mustafa, her wages, we know right now she only missed 1 day. We pray that she only misses 1 day because this means that it was one of those accidents. This may mean that it's one of those accidents that wasn't very serious. Truth is, we're not God and we don't have a looking glass, so we don't know whether she's going to continue to be better or whether she's going to get worse like some people do. They wish for the best, but then as time goes on, they're hurt more and more, and they're forced to take time off work. But I want to tell you, Ustaz Mustafa, that if your daughter is able to elect Michigan law pays 85%, Canadian law pays around 65%. So this is the first benefit of electing Michigan law. John, what about if she decided to elect Michigan law? Is there any advantage in her medical treatment? By the way, how far do you live from Michigan, Mr. Mustafa?
I live 5 minutes from the border.
So how far are you from Dearborn? From
about 20 minutes.
Okay, how far are you from Southfield, from Warren, Sterling Heights?
20, 25 minutes.
Okay. Let's talk about the huge benefit of treating here under Michigan law.
I wanted to remind you that I am going in the meeting soon. I just want to, if I can get your phone number, I can just discuss it with you further.
Absolutely. So our number is 248-557-3645. And I'll repeat that. It's 248-557-3645.
And Mr. Mustafa, feel free to leave the station whenever you want. We understand, but we're going to continue the discussion in a brief manner, since you won't be on the line, about the benefits of electing Michigan law.
I do appreciate it so much, and I will be contacting you soon.
Thank you for your trust. Thank you.
Yeah,
So one thing before you go, Mr. Mustafa.
Yes.
You have to act very quickly. Let me explain. Let me explain why. In order for Canadian residents to elect Michigan law, they don't have all the time of the world. The general rule is within 10 days of an accident, you have to elect. So go ahead, you can leave the station, no problem. I'm going to continue that discussion. The Attorney John Schroeder, we need to clarify to people. We have a number of people who come from Canada and who are Canadian residents who visit here for one reason or another and get involved in an accident. Because Michigan law is more beneficial financially and otherwise than Canadian law, of course, we would advise these people to choose Michigan law. And after we are done explaining all the reasons why, the listeners will understand why. However, I want all the Canadian, and we have a lot of listeners from Windsor particularly, to know that they do not have all the time in the world. Typically, within 10 days of the accident, you must take action and elect Michigan law. And that's assuming that your Canadian car insurance company does reciprocity with Michigan, because not every Canadian car insurance company has reciprocity with Michigan. Very specifically, that Canadian car insurance company should have filed what's called a certificate of reciprocity. So hopefully Mr. Mustafa's daughter's Canadian car insurance company is one of those many, because I think most are, then most are not, is one of those Canadian car insurance companies that has filed a certificate of reciprocity with the state of Michigan, and Mr. Mustafa's daughter must act within 10 days from the accident. So if the accident happened last week, she may be within a few days from making that option. if she is indeed one of the lucky ones to be able to choose Michigan law pays better, and Michigan law, when it comes to medical treatment, is way, way, way better. Am I correct, Attorney John Schroeder?
Yeah, so the advantage of Michigan law is that we currently have unlimited personal injury protection benefits for people that are involved in motor vehicle accidents.
What do you mean
for medical
by currently?
Bills. Well, as you know, and as many of our listeners may know, there was a law that was recently passed, Senate Bill 1, which was signed into law
last week,
just this last week, and
by Governor Whitmer.
by Governor Whitmer, as proposed by the Senate and amended by the House. And it was signed into law, which will change things substantially. There's going to be new insurance policies rolling out in 2020.
In July?
July 1st.
Of 2019 to 2020, yes.
July 1st of 2020.
But that's just the beginning.
That's correct. And there are going to be a substantial number of changes.
After that.
Correct.
So the whole law will not start in July 2020, parts of the law, and the part that has to do with medical treatment, that starts in July of 2020.
Yes. Well, yes. Most of the provisions take effect immediately July 1st, 2020. There are some provisions, and I can't tell you every little facet of the law. It's a very large bill. There's been a huge number of changes, but I do know that a number of things, such as provider reimbursement rates, won't take effect until I believe it's July of 2021.
To put that simply, right now when you treat with doctors, insurance companies pay a good rate. Come July of 2020, those numbers will dramatically reduce, and doctors will not receive any more than 200% of whatever Medicare.
Yeah, so it's not quite that clear. It's actually a varying percentage based upon the year in which they submit their billing. There are certain provisions where rates actually can fall from 200% to 195% to 190%, depending upon the year.
Okay, but just so that we can tell the listeners that up until July of next year, it is better to treat under Michigan law for this Canadian resident than it is for her to treat under Canadian law, assuming she can come to Michigan to treat. That's why I ask, how far does she live from some of the key areas here in Michigan?
Yeah, so bringing it back to where we started, which is, why is Michigan law currently a good option? Right now, they have to pay for they have to pay for all reasonable and necessary medical treatment, okay?
It can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can be, in fact, in the millions of dollars.
And it has been. We've had
many clients. We still have many clients who are in the millions and millions in treatment.
And I mean, we had a client not long ago who in 3 weeks of treatment, 3 weeks in the intensive care unit in a hospital, she racked up a $400,000 bill. That's in 3 weeks, and that was not nearly the end of her treatment. So these things do happen, and that by the way was paid in full to the penny by the insurance company. They paid the full $400,000 bill.
I can think of a client who's been a client since 2006 who gets a treatment, severe traumatic brain injury as a result of a truck accident, gets 24-hour attending care since 2006, and racks hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands in medical treatment every year.
And that brings up another interesting point about the way the law is changing. The law is now being amended to indicate that attendant care that is provided by a family is limited to only 56 hours maximum.
This is the workman's compensation law
per week, right? Well, it comes from there, yes.
Yes, it was inspired by workman's compensation law.
Correct.
So, John, before we will have a chance, I promise you, to talk a little bit about the new bill. I just want to wrap this analysis for our Canadian listeners.
Of course.
Again, for those Canadian listeners who, God forbid, are in an accident here in Michigan, that is not of their fault. Yes, they need a Michigan attorney to pursue on their behalf the pain and suffering against the other car.
Yes.
However, they may also need and use, and they may also want to hire a Michigan attorney at some point, either from the beginning or throughout, for their benefits for treatment, for wages, for housekeeping, and for attending care, because financially, Michigan car insurance companies, apple for apple, pay more. For example, for wages, there in Canada it's about 65%. Here it's 85%. Attending care there is very limited. Here is unlimited. Can be as much as 24 hours a day. Household services, I believe, is paid both ways, if I'm not mistaken. And the medical treatment in Canada, you have to wait. You are limited where you go, and it's a long waiting time before you see a doctor. A number of the doctors are not, how shall I say this, attuned to Michigan law, to Michigan auto law. So it may end up hurting a client a lot to treat in Canada, in that they are waiting a very long time, in that their treatment is very limited, and in that they will be dealing with doctors who do not know Michigan law, and they need that for the pain and suffering. Versus if moving or driving, from wherever they are in Canada, I think particularly of Windsor, which is very, very close, to come to treat in Michigan, then they have the Bentley treatment. They can go to whoever doctor they want. Heck, they can go to the Cleveland clinics, and they can go to the Mayo clinics, and they can go wherever they want, choose the best doctors, and they're much more likely to get in with the doctors here than in Canada. Correct?
Yeah, and just to clarify one other point, when I was talking about attendant care earlier, when we were talking about attendant care, that's essentially nursing care, but it can be currently provided by family members up to full time as well. So it's essentially like things like getting in and out of bed in the morning, showering, supervision for safety, helping with general mobility, things like that. So that's generally for people who are a little more severely injured than just a little fender bender.
And before we take our next caller, to wrap up this question about a Canadian resident getting involved in a car accident here in Michigan, to elect Michigan benefit, a Canadian resident who was involved in an accident in Michigan must act quickly, meaning within 10 days. Now, I don't want to talk about there are always exceptions to the rules, because we don't want people to take advantage of that. We want them to act within 10 days, because that's the right thing to do, rather than have to beg and see if there is a way we can wiggle out of that. But you must act within 10 days from when the accident happened, and see if your insurance in Canada has filed a certificate of reciprocity with the state of Michigan, meaning that there is reciprocity. In Arabic we call it تبادل بين كندا وبين ولاية Michigan. And by the way, we always go online to look at the Canadian car insurance companies that have filed a certificate of reciprocity.
Right.
They can also call their Canadian car insurance and get that answer, and hopefully it will be a truthful answer.
Yeah, they'll typically, I believe Canadian law requires a disclosure when they're in a motor vehicle accident, if they're eligible for Michigan benefits as well.
For those who had a nexus here, whose accidents happen here in Michigan.
Correct.
Okay. Are we ready to take the next caller?
Certainly.
And I know this caller has been waiting. Hello?
الو
يا أهلا وسهلا.
الله معك ست جمانة، كيف الحال؟
يا أهلا وسهلا.
حي المحامي، كيف الصحة؟ عندي سؤال.
تفضل.
أنا عندي فول كوفر بوليسي على للايجنت to get me a good rate. She put me on the group membership, and she put me on the bachelor degree, which I don't have. So will that affect my benefits on my policy?
استاذ الاسم إذا بتسمح.
عبدول.
عبدول. Okay. وكل عيد وأنت بخير على فكرة.
طول عمري.
Thank you. عيد مبارك. So when you say you have a full cover policy, what do you mean by that?
So
does that mean your vehicle is covered?
Yes, the vehicle is covered.
You mean that you have collision coverage in the?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you know, more importantly, if you have uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage?
Yes.
You
yes,
do?
I have only yes.
How much?
100 to 300.
Okay. Estez Abdul, raise it, please, because it's very cheap to raise it to 250.
Okay.
I'm sure you can afford to pay another $20 a year, can't you?
Yes.
Okay. Please raise it. Okay. So to get a good rate, Mr. Abdul is saying that his insurance agent put him on what's called the group membership and a
bachelor's degree. I believe they said he indicated that.
And he does not have a bachelor's
and he doesn't
degree.
have one. So
bachelor's degree, you mean his education level?
Educational level, right,
Okay.
which they are currently allowed to use as part of the ratings process. Yeah, so that could be a problem. And what you might want to do is you might want to make sure.
So let's first explain to the listeners, what is a group membership?
So group membership is something like, for example, you could be a member, like, for example, attorneys are members of the State Bar of Michigan. Okay, all attorneys licensed in Michigan are part of the State Bar of Michigan. There are firefighters.
Advantages to becoming a member of the
Right.
State Bar, which you have to do, so they may
Sure.
sell you car insurance
Sure.
at a discounted rate.
Sure,
Okay.
exactly. There are companies that offer discounts simply for being part of Bank of America, for example. There's a group membership discount rate for that. Depending on the insurance company, of course. And there are a lot of different career fields where there are group memberships for being a member of the association for that field. So one of the ways that insurance companies currently today, before this new law really takes effect, provide people with discounts is for things like educational status and for group memberships. Now, if you are not a member of a group or you do not have a degree as indicated to an insurance company, this can be a very serious problem.
And by the way, one of the changes in the law come July of 2020 is it's not going to matter to a certain degree what your education level is. Your zip code, although there is something called territory, we don't want to complicate it. So your education is not going to matter come July 2020. But the law still applies until then, and even then we don't know how things are going to unfold. So we always want to caution. A lot of us lawyers are struggling to understand the legislative intent behind every word put in that bill just passed into law, but we know that it's written in the language of the bill that became law, that your education status is not going to matter. But today your education status still matters, correct?
Yes, and so let me make sure this is clear, though, because this is a really important concept. Whenever you renew or purchase an insurance policy, so every 6 months your insurance policies are typically renewed. Every time you go through a renewal process, you had better make sure that the information on there is still correct, because things can change.
Actually, may I respectfully supplement your answer?
Sure.
You have a duty even during, maybe it's not time to renew yet or purchase.
Of course.
During the time of the policy, if anything material changes, you have a duty to update your insurance company. It's a continuing duty. You can't say, I just relocated, but actually my insurance renews in a month. Let me let them know then, because if God forbid an accident happens, you're gonna be your contract may be canceled.
I agree.
Okay.
I hadn't gotten there yet, but I absolutely agree. But whenever you have an insurance policy, you have to provide certain information either through an agent or through an 800 number, or however you're signing up for your
or
online, or however you're signing up for your policy. And in doing that, you provide the insurance a whole lot of information on yourself. Now, if some of the information is wrong, there's a big risk that the insurance policy may not be valid. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So there's something called material information. Material information is any information as defined under the law as that information which can affect your policy premium. So
one way or the other.
Right. So if you materially misrepresent the information to an insurance company, meaning you say you are part of a group that you are not, or you have an educational degree that you do not, they can use that when a claim is filed to void the policy. It's called ab initio. That means from the beginning. So what will happen if a claim is filed and some relevant material information has been provided, that means they will go back to the beginning of the policy, they will rescind it, or
give
the
you back
renewal
the
or
money.
whatever. They will give you back your premiums, but they will not pay for your claim. This is very important.
Worse than that. You in all likelihood going to have to pay for whoever else you were in an accident with, even if whoever else caused you the accident.
And
because now, under the eyes of the law, you're uninsured. Go ahead.
That's correct. So what happens, and that's where I was going to get to, so what happens then is not only will they not pay your claim, you will, because they're rescinding the policy from the beginning of its inception, essentially, what happens is you are now having been driving a vehicle uninsured. And that becomes a violation of the law, and it also has consequences for anyone else who's injured in that car or by that car. And you could actually be personally liable.
So as to Mr. Abdul, who is calling timely because he has not been involved, I assume, in a car accident, who does know that there is a misrepresentation there at the advice of his insurance agent, claiming materially that he holds a bachelor degree when he does not.
Yeah.
He needs to act.
He needs to call. He should probably call the insurance company directly in this case and correct that issue. Now, this is also leads us to another really important point that I can't emphasize enough. When you go through an agent or you go through an 800 number, it doesn't matter, or anyway, online, etc., make sure that when you get that information back, you read it, because as much as...
Make sure you see it with your own eyes.
Make sure you see it and you read it.
The agent did implement the changes that you requested, because agents are humans too.
Right, because there can be, there can be errors in these submissions, even by yourself. You can make errors. So you got to double check these things, because you could very easily end up in a situation where what would appear to you to be a very minor mistake could result in the rescission of the policy, and then you have no coverage. So,
Mr. Abdul, would you please call your insurance company, having realized that you may be getting a bit of a cheaper premium? It's not worth it at all, because should you be, God forbid, in an accident, they will cancel your contract. They will rescind the contract. They will give you back whatever money you paid, and you are now viewed as uninsured. Not only are you out of luck treating and getting your wages and whatever it is, but you will also be responsible for somebody else's car, somebody else's treatment, somebody else's wages. It's too risky just to save a few $100s. Absolutely not worth it. We have 15 minutes remaining. We are today talking about car accidents. We're touching upon the new law that got passed last week by Governor Gretchen Whitmer, that will take effect in a bit over a year, in July of 2020. 2020, we say?
That's correct.
2020. And one of the things, Attorney John Schroeder, and by the way, anyone is, we can still take a call or two. One of the things that people complain about, who live in expensive zip codes. So I want you to pull the language from the new law that speaks as to what is the effect, if any, of living in any specific zip code come July 2020, because up until today, up until the day before July, up until June 30, 2020, where you live matters.
Yeah.
The zip code you live in matters, and if you change zip codes, heck, even if you change streets within the same zip codes, you must notify your insurance company, because your rates may go up or down.
That's correct. So there's a lot of different things that go into insurance premiums right now. And I mean, there's a ton
right
of them.
now, up until July of next year.
Yes. So for just as an example of some of the things that will change, right now, your zip code, your occupation, your educational level, whether or not you own a home, your credit score, your accident history, all of these things go into rating.
And now, they matter today, and they will continue to matter until June 30, 2020.
Right. So, well, yes, exactly. So on July 1st of 2020, what's going to happen is they are now prohibiting auto insurance rates to be based upon a zip code or occupation or educational level or home ownership or credit score, which, I'll be frank, this is a really interesting change, because it's going to have a lot of different effects. And if you'll permit me, I'll speak about them briefly. So, for people who live in wealthier areas right now, who own a home, who have higher education levels, they're currently getting a discount. Those discounts will likely disappear. So it's interesting because one of the purposes of this bill is to reduce insurance rates. But it's not guaranteed that insurance rates will actually be reduced for everyone. In fact, the bill only guarantees reductions on the personal injury protection portion, and other areas of your insurance bill. If you look at your insurance bill, they bill you for many different line items.
Your premium includes also pain and suffering.
Right, and other areas as well. Those can actually increase as a result of this.
Because
and likely
there is something in the bill here, in the law. We're all in rejection mode. We keep calling it a bill, and it's a law. There is something in the law that speaks to the fact that your parts of your insurance can go up, like the third party.
That's
the
exactly
pain
right.
and suffering.
Yeah, and so even though there may be a reduction in certain parts of the premium, other parts of the premium may increase. That's the bottom line.
But we can agree that the biggest part of why people pay what they pay is the PIP portion, which is the medical and the wages and all of that.
Yeah, depending upon the insurance premium, depending upon the insurance plan right now, personal injury protection benefits can be as much as a third or even half of the bill itself, of your current, your auto bill that you get in the mail.
Right. Now let me translate this quickly in Arabic because it really matters and it's very important. حكينا عن القانون اللي بيبلش بجولاي بسنة الجاية، يعني بجولاي 2000 جولاي 1 2001 تموز 2020 لحد 30 حزيران 2020. القانون بعده هو ذاته. القانون بيقول yes your credit score بيأثر، yes your level of education بيأثر، yes your occupation شو بتشتغل بيأثر، yes إذا عندك بيت ولا لا بيأثر، yes الزب كود تبعك بيأثر. نحن بنطلب من كل المستمعين، بعد عنا أكتر من سنة القانون بعده هو ذاته. ما فينا نقلب زب كودز وما نقول للانشورنس كمباني، او مثل الشخص اللي اتصل اللي قال انه هو شاري جروب ممبرشيب انشورنس وانه هو عنده باتشلر ديجري. اذا هو منه، وقت الانسان اللي بيشتري انشورنس رامي ما بيروحوا بيحققوا، ما بيقولوا لك give us proof that you live here، ما بيقولوا لك give us proof that you really belong to the member، ما بيقولوا لك give us a copy of your bachelor diploma. بتقول لهم عندي bachelor diploma they take you at your word. بتقول لهم I live in West Bloomfield they take you at your word. بتقول لهم عندي bachelor degree they take you at your word. So الشخص اللي اتصل نحن بنذكره لحد اليوم ولحد سنة الجاي، بعد عنا أكتر من سنة هذا الشخص لازم يتصل لأنه قال عنده له bachelor degree أو الانشورنس ايجنت شجعه أو شجعته إنه يقول إنه عنده bachelor degree
حتى يحصل على ديسكاونت،
يحصل على ديسكاونت لحتى يكون أرخص شوي البريميوم. بعده القانون ما تغير. إذا الإنسان عن جد بيملك بيت ولا لا، إذا الإنسان عن جد عايش بهذا الزب كود ولا لا، إذا الإنسان عن جد هو عنده الإديوكيشن اللي بيدعي عنده إياها، عنده المهنة اللي بيدعي عنده إياها. الكريدت سكور هن بيحصلوا على الكريدت سكور، بس بيقدر الإنسان، يعني بعتذر على الكلمة، الكريدت سكور تبعي مش رح أقول أنا للإنشورنس ايجنت هن اللي رح يحصلوا عليه، بس أنا بقدر كذب وأقول لهم أنا عندي دكتوراه، أنا ما عندي دكتوراه. بقدر كذب وأقول أنا محامية وأنا مش محامية. بقدر كذب وأقول أنا بملك بيت أنا ما بملك بيت. بقدر كذب وأقول أنا عندي زب كود تبع بلومفيلد هيلز وأنا عندي زب كود تبع ديترويت. الانشورنس ايجنت ما عم يطلب براهين. شو بقول له؟ بيطبق المعلومات، بس وقت بيتم الحادث هون بيفتحوا السجلات لأنه عم بينبشوا على طريقة لحتى to deny coverage. فهذه شغلة كتير مهمة. عم نحكي عن قانون جديد، بس هيدا القانون بده أكتر من سنة ليبلش تطبيقه. يعني كل شخص مستمع، كل شخص عنده حادث سيارة they should continue to follow the law اللي هي إنه you have to say what your real zip code is, you have to say what your real education, what your real occupation, and so forth.
And absolutely, that's true. One other thing I might just add briefly is under the new law, although they can't discriminate supposedly based upon zip code, they now added a new strange. Well, we don't know yet. I don't think it's actually been defined yet. But apparently, insurance companies will now be able to adjust rates based upon the territory in which people live. Now, in Canada, that might make sense because they have territories. But in the United States and in Michigan, we don't have territories. We have counties, we have states, we have a country, we have cities. So we don't actually know what how they're going to define these territories. So it's actually still possible that people in southeastern Michigan might end up paying very high premium rates. We just don't know fully yet, and we won't know for a while, I think.
We have about 10 minutes remaining. I want you to talk about something that we have been dealing with quite a bit lately, which is people who have their own cars and who use their cars for Uber and or Lyft, and the duty to notify one's insurance company of the fact that they use their personal car at times for Uber.
Yes.
Because somebody called me a long time ago and asked me, about a year ago, that's a long time ago, and asked me, do I have a duty? I have my own personal car. I have my own personal car insurance, and I work for Uber. Do I have to tell my own personal car insurance that I work for Uber? And the advice that I have since corrected is, it's better that you do, but I don't know that you need to, because truth is, if you have the application on, or if you are in the business of transporting somebody, the law is very clear. The insurance company for Uber has to cover. So I don't think it's wrong if you don't notify your personal insurance company, but I advise you to notify. I have since changed my advice, but I know you deal with that issue in the office a lot.
Yeah, so I would actually suggest that you do.
Absolutely.
I think that you
because
almost
now
absolutely
we're looking
have
at
to.
the policies.
Yeah, the problem is, here's the issue. The issue is that most insurance companies now require you to disclose as part of your duties under the contract.
Okay, so let's clarify that. So we're talking about the policies. Insurance companies, by the way, when I was talking with you and other attorneys in the office about why are they passing a law that is not going to take effect for another well over a year, and one of your answers was
they have to rewrite the policies.
They have to give some time to car insurance. By the way, who did write this bill?
Well,
not us lawyers. Who did write this bill?
Well, I don't actually know who the official author is. The sponsors are, of course, our legislators. However, it's fairly likely that these were written by attorneys. This is very legal language. And it's
attorneys for car insurance companies.
Yes, I mean it's highly likely that their counsel provided, I would say, substantial assistance,
of course,
at the very least, in drafting this legislation.
We know that, and again, one of the reasons you said is, car insurance companies have to now adjust their policy language. That policy language changes all the time. So,
it does.
So going back to those who are listening who use their cars for Uber and Lyft, do they need to notify their own personal insurance? The answer is yes, and the reason comes from the policies.
Yes.
So let's say I have AAA.
Sure.
That's my own personal AAA car insurance.
Yes.
And I work with Lyft. And I need now in my policy, in that booklet, I am likely to find language, because it's a contract between me. It's a private contract.
That's correct.
Between me and AAA. And when I buy a policy, when I buy a declaration page, whether I like it or not, I have promised to adhere to all the terms of this written contract. So now increasingly in our office, when we're asking for the policies, we're finding language that now insurance companies, in keeping up with the times, keeping up with the technology, have added that are placing a requirement on the part of anyone who is using their car for Uber or Lyft to notify their car insurance company, correct?
That's exactly correct. And the basis for this, at least according to the insurance companies, is that they believe they need to adjust the risk for someone utilizing their car more often.
And I can understand why. Do you know why? If I have AAA and I am using my car for Lyft and Uber, okay, I turned off the application, and I don't have a passenger in my car, fine. But maybe because I worked for hours and hours, I am a tired driver, and I may on my own time get, God forbid, in a car accident, and now it's the responsibility of AAA.
Absolutely.
So I think that I am more of a risk because I'm on the road.
Well, and that's exactly what they argue is, this causes people who drive for Uber and Lyft are on the road more often. Their cars get more usage, and they're driving for longer periods of time to distances
at higher risk of getting
to distances that may be further away from their home, and they may have to get back there, and so they're at higher risk for motor vehicle accidents. Additionally, it just is generally basic logic that you're going to be driving in higher populous areas and therefore more likely higher risk areas as well. For example, if you go to the Detroit Metro, you're more likely to get a fare than out in the middle of the countryside in northern Michigan. So even though you might be less likely to get into an accident if you live out in northern Michigan, if you're driving for Uber and you're going down to Detroit for fares for the next 3 days, in theory, again, you're more likely to get into an accident because you're in a higher populous area, which will get you more rides.
So our advice is everyone who uses their car for Uber or Lyft must notify their own personal car insurance company of the fact that they now work for Uber or Lyft or Uber and Lyft, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. If they contract for Uber or Lyft, then they should be notifying their insurance companies and asking if there's anything that they need to do with their policies. Some insurance companies actually will not insure people who work for Uber or Lyft, and so that's even more critical to make sure that you've got proper insurance.
Some insurance companies will not extend your coverage
Correct,
if they know
at all.
that you work for Uber. Do you know of any?
I don't recall off the top of my head, unfortunately, but I know I encountered one recently. I just don't remember which one it was.
Okay. And I wanted to say something. Yes. I don't think because this is all new, driving for Uber, driving for Lyft, insurance companies adjusting and changing the policy language. I don't think we've come across or we're aware of any case where someone forgot to notify or did not know to notify or did not notify their own personal car insurance. They got into an accident and their own personal car insurance canceled their contract because they did not get notification.
To my knowledge, there are no Court of Appeals or Supreme Court decisions that have addressed that issue at this time.
Do you know of any car insurance company that has denied coverage because they were not notified that they're insured?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Well, we've had a couple of times in this office where we've had people assert a claim for personal injury protection benefits. And then upon submission of a lost wage request, for example, it came to light that the lost wages were based upon Uber or Lyft. And then when they had requested these wages from Uber and Lyft, the insurance company necessarily knew that they were working for Uber or Lyft at the time.
They learned for the first time.
That's right.
Okay.
That they had been doing this contracting for Uber and Lyft, and then they bring forth the policy and say, lo and behold, there is a provision in this policy which indicates that you cannot work for Uber and Lyft.
Okay, so they decided to rescind the contract, cancel the contract
exactly
based
right.
on language inside the policy?
That's correct.
Okay, so our advice for everyone who is listening, pull out your policy and see if there is language. It's typically not the first page. It's typically, what is there is a headline, there is a...
Well, there's something called duties to the insured, and typically it'll be under a duties section, but it could be anywhere in there.
All right. And let's say people who want to play it safe and want to call their personal car insurance company and report that they do work for Lyft and that they have been working for Lyft and they haven't had a car accident. Mm-hmm. How do they make sure that the insurance company is truly properly notified? What kind of paper trail do they need to make sure that if this ever comes to light, they've really notified? I think really by letter or email in addition to a call.
So you could always send a letter, you can always send an email. One of the things that will likely occur is that the occupation section will change on the policy itself, because there's usually something on the declarations page or on the early pages of the policy that indicates the occupation that you've been rated for currently.
Okay. But again, if you called, and please do not equate your insurance agent for being your insurance company. A lot of insurance agents just are independent contractors that will sell you an insurance policy and make a commission, and that's it. They do not speak for your insurance company. Some insurance agents do. So please don't make the mistake of reaching out to your insurance agent. Reach out to your insurance company, and if you call them, make sure you cover it with an email by asking who is the right person. This way, if there is ever a dispute, they've been notified. If it is a letter, it will have to be certified, return receipt requested. Otherwise, there may be a dispute because it's not time to renew the policy. So you just realize this and you want to make this right. So you really must make sure that you have a paper trail.
That's exactly right. And by the way, anytime you make a policy change, they will, or an insurance company should send you a new copy of your policy as well.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney John Schroeder. Thank you, Rami. Next Thursday or in 2 days, we're having Attorney Howard Radner talk about slip and fall, trip and fall, and premises liability.
Inshallah.
Rami, Joumana, thanks for having me.
شكرا.
Thank you, John,
you.
for bringing a lot of valuable information.
شكرا لكم مستمعينا على حسن الاستماع.